Noah, Hot Rod Kid, going to show us how to do it the hard way by hand.
Yep. So, like he said, my name's Noah Norwood, also called the Hot Rod Kid. I own HRK Design out of McMinnville, Oregon. So I've been metal shaping for about 10 years, and then I've been in business for about 5 years. And so we just build mostly American stuff, traditional hot rods and customs and some resto mod stuff. So right over here, I have Pat and Ryan. These are my teammates, and so we just build cool stuff in the shop together for fun. So today we're going to be doing some traditional kind of coach building and metal shaping techniques. So this goes back a long, long ways when people very first started skinning cars. These are the essential tools that they would use. And the cool part about this is it really kind of opens it up to anybody, because a lot of people can get access to a stump, dig a little hole in it, get yourself a mallet, and really start to be able to shape some metal. So there's 3 basic things that we're going to be doing when we're shaping metal, and that's the only 3 things that we're going to be doing to this piece today. We're going to be able to shrink it, stretch it, or put form into it, which is just bending it, okay? So shrinking is when we're going to reduce the surface area, and we're actually going to thicken the metal because we're going to be gathering it together. And then stretching it is going to be when we're increasing the surface area and we're actually thinning the metal out. So if you imagine sheet metal, and later on, Mike and Nick, they're going to be talking about some paper patterns, like Christian talked about it a little bit yesterday. They're going to be talking about paper patterns and using a buck, and then also kind of your layout and everything. And so that'll be when things probably make a little bit more sense of where we're needing to shrink and where we're needing to stretch and kind of why. But really what I want to focus with this is just the basics of how you can start to make a shrink and actually just see some shape come into the panel. So especially with more traditional techniques like this, using a mallet and the shop bag and an English wheel, you can get just as nice of a finish as you can with some of the power hammers and finishing hammers and everything like that, but it's just going to end up taking a little bit more time. So another thing I'd like to do is have everybody be able to kind of be hands-on with this piece. So probably where we'll end up is not a super refined piece with the amount of time that we have, but everybody will kind of get a chance to try this out and see some shrinking and some stretching. So if we think about sheet metal, like I was saying, just like paper. So if you have a piece of paper and it's rounded off like this, and you try and imagine bringing the paper to where it can fold up in kind of that curled shape like you're imagining in your head you want your sheet metal to be, you can imagine how the sheet metal is going to want to make all of these wrinkles, okay? Because there's too much paper to be able to try and force up and come into that. Excuse me. Sheet metal is the same exact way, but we're able to shrink sheet metal. So when you make that big puck that you see and that gather that comes in the sheet metal, what we're able to do is we're able to hammer the sheet metal in on itself to be able to create a shrink. So this big curved area, we're going to need to shrink all throughout this area. And then this you can kind of see as a curve here. So this is going to need some shrinking here, but not a whole lot, just a little bit of shrink. And then back over here, this is going to need a little bit of shrink. And then in here, this is actually going to need a little bit of stretch, because that's a reverse curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one shrink right here. So I'm going to get it started by just doing this kind of a thing. So I just got this little kind of crease in here that I'm hammering into this, and that's just going to kind of help the metal know where to go where I want my shrink to be at. So now we have this big bowl in here and this wood. So when I set my panel into this like that, I can take my hammer, and we're just gonna okay. So now everybody can see the big tuck that we have forming in here. I might even kind of clean this up a little bit just so we get a real nice tuck. And now that we have the tuck in here, what we're going to do is we're going to try and capture the tuck. So I'm going to start at this edge and kind of hammer this down so we can trap that into there. And basically what we're doing is we're taking the sheet metal, and we got it all pinched up like this, and instead of just laying it back down and it going back where it went before, when it's captured like that, we want to trap it So we can actually, we're forcing the molecules of the metal together to create that shrink. There we go. So I'll pass this around and you can kind of see it. You can kind of see there's like a little bit of a discoloration. A little bit, the metal looks a little bit different because that's where the shrink was captured and the molecules of the metal actually started to come together. So, while that's being passed around, the reason why we're using a wood stump and a wood mallet, or sometimes you can use like one of these plastic mallets that we have here, is because the wood has a little bit of give to it, and because what we're trying to do is shrink, we don't want to use metal on metal. Because whenever we're going to do metal on metal, that's going to cause the metal to stretch. And so for this piece, we're going to want to shrink around the edges, but we're going to want to stretch in the center. And we'll do some stretching with the English wheel as well. But that's why we're using wood, and that's why it'd be probably possible, but a little bit harder to get it right using anvil and a steel hammer. Like the Baileigh hammers, for example, those are shrinking with steel on steel, but it's a super precise machined out to where you can capture that shrink. And with something like this, when you're just doing it by hand, it's a lot harder to get it right when you have that little bit of a give that wood has.
Awfully quiet over there now.
Yeah, you guys got any questions? Any questions at all?
Does it matter the size of the bowl or like in the stump for what we're doing?
Yeah, so that's a good point. So with this piece, we're not gonna, I don't know if you guys saw the piece that Nick had passed around that was one of these tanks that just had that lot of shape to it. So when you have a more shallow bowl like this, you kind of limit yourself on how many shrinks you can do with tucking. And so you can still get it that way, but you're going to be doing a lot more stretching, especially on the wheel and everything. And so that's like what Christian was talking about, where he thinks more shrink-based versus more stretch-based. So whenever you're going to be doing power hammer work, you can shrink and stretch with the power hammer, and you can shrink and stretch with this method, but you're going to be, for this one, you're going to be relying a lot more on stretching. And so it'll just take a little bit longer. So you might sit there and wheel out the center of your tank for a lot longer. So.
Is there a preferred stump to the bag?
What's that?
Is there a reason you preferred stump to the bag?
Yeah, you can definitely shrink with the bag, especially with this tucked one here. Yeah, I just prefer the stump just because that's kind of what I'm kind of used to. But we will be using the bag here in a little bit to stretch out the center. And so we'll show that once we kind of get some of the shrinks done on the edges here. Then we'll kind of move over and start to hammer this out and stretch that out with the sandbag. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some more shrinks into here. Oh, and another thing is you want to make sure that you have your shrinks coming out perpendicular. So if you have, like, this is kind of your center point, you don't want to have, weird coming off shrinks. You want to make sure that they stay nice and perpendicular to your piece there. Which is also kind of why I like to tap it in like this, because it kind of helps make sure that that tuck comes into the right spot. So what's also kind of fun about this method is you start to do it, and it's like there's no way you're going to make something out of that because you just beat the piss out of it. But you just keep working with it. We're gonna have something here. So if you guys want to look a little closer, I'm actually able to use the bowl too. And I'm just sitting there and hammering it in the bowl. And you'll see the little tucks form. And then the bowl's kind of holding it in there in itself. And I'm able to hammer the tuck out. So like you can see that little edge right there. That was a lot bigger tuck that then started to get hammered out. We can finish hammering it out there. So you can see that now, just like we were talking about with that paper, now it's starting to form over. So if you have that paper and all those wrinkles come in, that's what we had happen. All those tucks and wrinkles came in, but then we hammered them out. So now it's not just if you were to take a straight piece of metal and bend a 90 in it, you have a curve going this way and it's all starting to gather and kind of come around like that. All right, so now we need to do some shrink onto this part right here. So let's see if we can find somebody who wants to hit some stuff with a mallet and see if we can get some shrinks into this piece here. Gotta pick somebody.
Sure.
Are there different techniques for steel versus aluminum? Or is it just harder?
No, other than just it's gonna suck more if it's steel. It's not gonna be a lot harder hits. So yeah, so
Crease it on the.
Yep, so we'll go ahead and come like that, and then this whole kind of part, you can kind of just, yep.
Don't crease it on the side like you started.
No, for this small of a thing, you should be able to just hit it right there in the center. Yep, like that. So now see the tuck right there, now start to hammer out that tuck. There you go.
Okay.
Yep, and so see this is kind of where we get a little limited with the amount of size we have for a bowl. So let me see this. Let's see if we can get a nice little tuck in. There's kind of a little bit of a tuck right there, but we're kind of running out of depth with this bowl. Yeah, go ahead and just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, use my man hands. You know.
No, it's not you. It's just it's not a super deep bowl, so it's hard to get a tuck to pop up in there. Back over there, see, yep, kind of see how it's kind of pop right there. Yep. Cool.
Back down through the center. Or?
Yeah, go ahead. All right, that's probably good. So now we kind of got our area shrunk here a little bit, and so now we'll kind of move on, and we'll do a little bit of some stretching here. So we have this bag right here. This is a sand bag or a shot bag. So it's just a leather bag that we have filled with whatever kind of material, either shot from like a shotgun shell or sand. And so what this allows us to do is lay our metal on top of it. And so this kind of has some give to it. As you can see, I can kind of work a hole in there with my hand. So whenever you make it, like when you dent your car or something and you got that big dent in there, and I don't know if you guys have ever tried this, but you hammer it and dolly it and get it back straight, and then it does that oil can thing, right? That's because wherever the dent was made, you actually stretched out the metal, because it's like this, and when you pushed it out, the metal stretched. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing with this right here. And so this kind of gives it that area to be able to give. So when we hammer it just like this, we just created a stretch. So if you were to hammer this back and try and get that straight again, that area would still be stretched. And so that's exactly what we're going to do throughout this whole panel, because all of this area in here, we want all of this to be nice and stretched. I'm just going to come through, and we're going to start to kind of puff this center part out. And this could totally, you could do this whole thing with just the English wheel, but this is going to kind of speed up our time so we can kind of get that shape roughed in first, and then we'll kind of plenish it out with the English wheel, and then we can kind of refine and get some more shape in there wherever we'd like to later on with the wheel. All right, this is the easy part. Somebody's got to try this. Where's Ken at? Or you want to try it?
Do you prefer like the sand for the shot? Is there any difference?
Shot's a little bit better. Yeah, it's a little bit looser. Yeah, I mean, we're going to end up putting a bunch of dents in there, like Gene Field is called walnuts, and so we'll be able to punch all that out later. With this one, you're not going to have too many of the issues like you would with the body armor, where you get a little smiley faces in there.
So when you start to get into this,
Yeah, this is just going to be a form issue. So, in this aluminum, Nick and I were talking, it's a little springy, but there you go. Okay. So that's kind of the difference between form and shape. Is like I said before, form we're just bending. Yeah, keep going. Yeah, exactly. So if we kind of look at this here, then we kind of like see that kind of a little spot that can be pushed down more in there.
So with 3000 series aluminum, do you anneal it at all?
No, you can. I mean, like Kevin was saying, the more and more you work it, the more work hardening you're going to have. I don't do a whole lot of aluminum work. Most of my stuff is steel, but Mike and Nick work with aluminum a lot. And what I'd say, probably if you're doing stuff by hand, if you have a piece that you're trying to shape and you're having those work hardening issues, you're probably, especially by hand, you're probably just trying to shrink or stretch or do something too much for the one piece. And that's the thing that happens a lot with this English wheel work, is what you find is you just got to end up making your panel into a couple pieces, you know. Like I know Mike, he likes to do stuff as big as he can, just kind of for the challenge and kind of see what you can do with the power hammer. And with the wheel stuff, you kind of just, you know, make it a little bit easier on yourself. You can make it bigger, but you're going to have a lot better day if you just make it just a little bit smaller. So I'm just putting some really small little tucks in the side of this just to get a little shrink in here. Because we don't want a lot right here, but just a little. All I'm doing right here is I'm just trying to correct the form. So as you can see, we have a piece that's pretty roughed out, and it's like there's no way that that's going to end up being something. Got a little bit of a spot right here. We'll puff that out a little bit. So we're going to end up plenishing this out on the English wheel, but you might as well make it a little bit easier on yourself as far as your plenishing work, and get it kind of as close as you can, or kind of at least even out some of the walnuts so they're all in the same area. Alright, so you can see we really start to have kind of our basic gas tank shape coming along. Like you can see we got curve going both directions, you know, which is the true meaning of shape. But it looks super hammered right now, and so we're obviously, before we put this on our motorcycle or whatever we're going to try and build, we want it to be nice and smooth. I mean, I guess you could just Bondo all the way over it if you wanted to. Alright, we'll go ahead and move over the wheel over here.